this video, you will learn about advantage of open source, disadvantage of open source operating system, open source alternatives to Microsoft Office, open source software for education. So let's get started. Open source software is a software that is free to use and which provides the original source code used to create it so that advanced user can modify it to make it work better for them. For example, Linux, GIMP, Mozilla Firefox, and proprietary software, closed source software means the company that developed the software owns the software and no one may duplicate it or distribute it without that company's permission. User have to pay to the software company if they want to use the closed source software. Example, Microsoft Office 2007, Windows 7, etc. Let's move our next topic. Our next topic is advantage of open source software. First, user can get open software for free of charges. User can modify the software purchased with its source code. User can install software freely into any computer. No one is responsible to the software. For open source software, source code available to all, license term neutral. Open source software, like its name suggests, provides user with an open code that can be freely used, modified and shared by anyone. You can take advantage of it either your business, for a personal project or for educational purpose without paying a dime. Open source license can grant you the right to copy and redistribute the software to anyone you want. There are no set boundaries or any limitation. Next topic, disadvantage of open source software. Generally, developer wish list get priority rather than end user needs. Need to be extra careful about security. Advanced features are generally in Enterprise Edition, which is not free. Difficult to find drivers for new devices or hardware. Need to be extra careful about security. I hope you must have understood. Our next topic, open source operating system. Every time you switch on your computer, you see a screen where you can perform different activities like browse the internet or watch a video. So to work on your computer, you need an operating system. You may have used popular operating system like Windows, Apple OS X, etc. But here we will learn what Linux is and what benefits it offers. So what is Linux? Who created it? Linux is an operating system germinated as an idea in the mind of young and bright Torvalds. He was a computer student. He used to work on the Unix operating system and thought that is needed improvement. However, when his suggestions were rejected by the designer of Unix, he thought of launching an operating system which will be receptive to the changes, modifications suggested by its user. So Linux devised a kernel named Linux 1991. He would need programs like file manager, document editors, audio video programmer to run on it. So around 1991, a working Linux operating system with some applications was officially launched. The main advantage of Linux was the programmer were able to use the Linux kernel in order to design their own custom operating system. This has now made Linux one of the most popular and widely used kernel, and it is the backbone of popular operating systems like Debian, Ubuntu, Fedora. List doesn't end here, as there are thousands of operating systems based on Linux which offer a variety of functions to the user. Linux now enjoys popularity at its prime, and it's famous among programmers as well as regular computer users around the world. The main benefit is that it offers a free operating system. Another benefit are being open source. Anyone with programming knowledge can modify it. Once you have Linux installed, you no longer need an antivirus. Linux is a highly secure system. That is why Amazon, Facebook, and Google use Linux for their servers. A Linux-based server could run non-stop without a reboot for years on end. I'm asked to learn Unix and what Unix is the mother of the operating systems, which led Unix is the mother of the operating systems which laid out the foundation to Linux. Unix is designed mainly for mainframes and used in enterprises and universities. Linux is fast becoming a household name for computer users. You may have to pay for a Unix kernel while in Linux it is free, but the commands used on both the operating system are usually the same. There is not much difference between Unix and Linux. This was a short introduction to Linux.